very, very warm welcome to you all for signing up to this webinar on keeping children safe online. As I said, my name's Amy Woodhouse and I am the Chief Exec of Parenting Across Scotland. And we are delighted to be hosting this event in partnership with Police Scotland's Cybercrime Harm Prevention Team as part of Cyber Scotland Week 2025. And we've got Al and Ewan here from that team, and they will be doing the presentation and speaking to you in a minute or two. Parent Across Scotland's vision is a Scotland where all parents and carers are valued and supported to give children the best possible start in life. And online spaces can provide some wonderful opportunities for children, young people and their families, but they are also fraught with risks. And I cannot think of many parents who don't worry about the dangers their children may be exposed to if they venture online. And certainly myself, as a parent of a teenage boy, it's something I worry about, and I don't feel as well equipped as I should be to know how best to respond. So you are definitely not alone if you're feeling like that yourself. And so Parenting Across Scotland was incredibly grateful when Police Scotland approached us to see about running an online session for parents. And with the uptake that we've had, I think it's safe to say that this is an issue that lots of parents want to know more about. So hopefully over the course of the next hour, we will all feel more knowledgeable and confident about how best to reduce the risks of children being online while not cutting off the benefits associated with this as well. So the format for this evening, we'll have a presentation, we'll have an introduction from Al, and then we'll have a presentation from Ewan from Police Scotland's Cybercrime Harm Prevention Team. And then we've saved quite a big chunk of time for a question and answer session. So hopefully you'll all be able to see the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens, which you can use to submit a question. You'll also be able to see the questions submitted by others, and you should be able to upvote any that you're particularly interested in. And that might help us to prioritise questions if we receive a lot of them. You'll have also maybe heard of this session as being recorded announcement when you joined. So we are recording this session. We've had quite a few people that can't make it along tonight, so it will be made available afterwards on our YouTube channel, but just be assured no participants will be visible or identifiable at any point in this video, so hopefully that you will feel comfortable about that. And a final point from me for the moment, just before we get properly started, some of the content tonight might be distressing at times. It can be difficult to hear about children and young people coming to harm. So do look after yourselves and step away if you need to. But we will mostly be focusing on positive changes that can make a good difference for children and young people. So hopefully you'll find a helpful and supportive space this evening. So, well, that's all for me for the moment. Excuse me. I'm going to hand over to Al, who's going to introduce the Cybercrime Harm Prevention Team and their work. Al, over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. As Amy said, I'm Alistair Penny. I am the Inspector in charge of Police Scotland's Cybercrime Harm Prevention Team. Really want to thank you all for coming along and just discuss what will hopefully be a helpful online safety advice and guidance for both you and your family. And just before we start, sort of talk through about what my team does, and I suppose we continually develop practices and policies in relation to cybercrime prevention, which can change quickly just because of the advancements in technology and unfortunately new scams appearing all the time. And we provide oversight and direction coordination to the local police officers and help sharing good practice. We also have advice on our Police Scotland internet pages, and throughout the presentation there will be signposting in the chat function. So when Ewan's talking, I'll helpfully signpost things as well. Police Scotland obviously keeps people safe in person, but with the advancement of technology, we also have to keep people safe online, be it on their computers, their mobile phones and other internet-enabled devices. And the internet is wonderful, let's not kid ourselves about that. It can be used by children and young people to research school reports and communicate with teachers and their friends and play interactive games. But with online access, there's risks as well. There can be inappropriate content, there can be cyberbullying, there can be online predators, unfortunately. And we wouldn't let our children wander the streets alone, and we hammer home the stranger dangers to our children. But with online world, I think sometimes we can be guilty of it and maybe inadvertently turning a blind eye to the threat that can be posed when children and young people explore the internet unsupervised, unprotected. And we're so attuned to the risks of looking out in person and seeing who their children are speaking to in the streets and whatnot. But sometimes, as I said, we're overlooking the threat that can actually happen in our homes when the children are going into online world. As I show my age here, I remember a time before the online, before they didn't have mobile phones, didn't have the internet. And I think now I still think of an online world and an offline world. I don't think children and young people differentiate between that anymore. It's just the world. And that line is definitely getting blurred. So we have to keep pace with that. That the online world isn't really designed with children's safety in mind. And I won't bore you with stats and figures at the moment, but around 50% of children have seen online content that they felt was inappropriate or made them feel worried or upset, and then didn't go and speak to somebody about that. And children take risks, and that's human nature. We've all done things that perhaps our parents would not be proud of when we were younger. But it's human nature, and we absolutely understand that. But it's about raising awareness and ensuring people can try and make informed decisions about that. And it's really important to empower children and young people to recognise the potential risks and to report them, because there are some tragic instances out there where people are putting themselves in harm's way when they're sitting on the sofa opposite their parents. But it's really important that, because of the nature of some offences that we'll touch upon, like extortion, for example, children and young people might not ask for help for any number of reasons. They might not recognise they're being exploited. They might feel threatened. They might be embarrassed for it. As I say, they might believe they've acted unlawfully, for example, but there needs to be no blame and no shame for this. Now, this is a whistle-stop tour. I make no apologies for that. This is about raising awareness. I could talk for 20 minutes on just a general introduction to the online world. But it's about raising awareness, and I'm more than happy to come back in another 6 months and do another presentation if need be. This is about raising awareness and to signpost you to look for further information. I know some local authorities use different apps, as I was discussing with Amy before we came on. I'm in Ayrshire. We use the Safer Schools app, and that has a wealth of information on it as well, for example. Now, as I said, we could cover hours and hours on each topic, but it's about raising awareness and answering as many questions as we can. So I'll pass you on to my colleague Ewan, who will discuss these things in details. And I say, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat log. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I'll just load up the presentation. Can you see that? Yep.
Yep, we can.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us this evening for this presentation. My name is Ewan Ross. I'm a serving police officer currently working in the Police Scotland Cybercrime Harm Prevention Team. I'm based up in Aberdeen, but we're a national unit covering the whole country. And we work with our partners in the public, private and third sectors to deliver cybercrime harm prevention advice. As the Inspector said, it's going to be a very short 20-minute PowerPoint presentation to give you a brief overview of online safety, which will then allow plenty of time for any questions that you may have for us. So just to kick things off, I'm going to play a short video. What would the story of Romeo and Juliet look like in the present day? Star-crossed teens messaging, sending snaps and taking risks, all without their parents being aware. So I think that video just highlights that although technology and social media can seem overwhelming and constantly changing, children and young people don't change. Just as when we were young, kids are still exploring, creating their identities, keeping up with friends, and exploring adolescent pressures. And although much of this now happens online, the parental support and advice that parents, guardians offer kids in real life can also keep them safer online. Many of us see our online lives and offline lives as different, but for children growing up with technology and the internet, there isn't a difference. Online life and offline life is just life. In 1990, a British inventor, Tim Berners-Lee, invented the World Wide Web, and so began the internet as we know it today. He has been quoted to say, "Humanity uses the web, and if you look at humanity, you'll see good and bad stuff." As such, the internet and online world wasn't designed with children's safety, well-being, and best interests in mind, but is where so much of childhood is now spent. We all enjoy the convenience of digital life, using digital devices to communicate, to travel, for education, to play games, to pay for things. The online world has increasingly become easy and available to access, and we can connect online using a vast array of devices. It's an amazing place with benefits for education, making and maintaining friendships, leisure pursuits, and engaging with wider society. But it can be a double-edged sword that also brings challenges. Online access comes with risks such as cyberbullying, cyber predators, radicalization, a vast array of scams and frauds, and a loss of privacy. So it is all our responsibility to support our children and young people in the online world and understand what it is like for them to grow up in it. And I'd just say, despite the risks from digital technology, children have much to gain from them also. So as I've said, the online world and real world are now hard to differentiate from each other, with kids spending large parts of their lives online. Every year, Ofcom, that's the regulator for UK comms services, produces a report looking at children's internet use and attitudes to media, and I'll mention some findings from the 2024 report. This graph here just shows the top 5 app sites by age group. So you can see YouTube is consistently popular across all age groups, with WhatsApp, TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram increasing in popularity the older kids become. Interestingly, Facebook and X, popular apps for adults, barely register with kids at all. They're just for dinosaurs such as myself. I won't bamboozle you with stats, but just highlight the young age kids are going online. About a quarter of kids aged 5 to 7 now own a smartphone, and 3/4 of this age group use tablet computers. Furthermore, social media use amongst young kids has increased significantly, with 38% of 5 to 7-year-olds now using social media platforms. Many people are unaware that the correct minimum age requirement for most social media platforms in the UK is 13 years old, and that's due to the age of digital consent for data sharing in the UK. So what are the online risks for children and young people? Police Scotland are aware that there's various forms of online abuse that exist, but based on research and what we see being reported to the police, the most common forms of online abuse are identified as cyberbullying and harassment, non-consensual intimate image abuse, and grooming. These risks can be heightened for neurodivergent children. The online world can benefit them greatly, but they can be more likely to experience harm due to content, conduct, and contact risks. So cyberbullying and harassment. Sadly, bullying has always been part of many young people's daily lives, but due to our engagement in the online world, bullying now no longer stops at the school gates. With our rising interactions online, cyberbullying has become increasingly prevalent and eroded the sanctuary of safe spaces such as the home. And it can be defined as when a person bullies or harasses others on the internet and or social media sites. And there are many forms of it, such as posting rumours, threats, sexual remarks, and making personal information public, but that's by no means an exhaustive list. Unfortunately, there's not a set standard of behaviours in response to being bullied. You will know your child best and what behaviour is outside the norm. Be available to talk to your child about their worries and make sure they know where they can go for support. That could be you, a teacher they trust, or an organisation like Childline. Non-consensual intimate image abuse is the act of sharing intimate images or videos of someone, either on or offline, without their consent. This also includes cyber flashing, revenge porn, and the use of artificial intelligence to produce deep fake images. And when we say intimate, what do we mean? That is images and videos of people who are naked, showing their genitals, engaging in sexual activity or poses, or wearing underwear in compromising positions. Police Scotland recognise this as a serious form of abuse, so it's important that you report someone sharing or threatening to share an intimate image without consent. Also, if the non-consensually shared image is posted on a social network, you can report this to the platform, which can help you get an image removed. And grooming, that's when a relationship is built with a child or young person with the intent to sexually abuse, exploit, or traffic them. It can be done online or face-to-face and can be orchestrated by a stranger or someone a young person or child knows. It's rare for a child to tell an adult they are being groomed, but again, if you've got any concerns at all, a child is being abused, then please report them to Police Scotland. Sextortion is a type of online blackmail. Adult criminals, often from overseas organised crime groups, will threaten to share nude or semi-nude images and/or videos of a young person unless they pay them or carry out some other demand. Sextortion may be from sexual indecent images that have been sent to somebody through contact online where the criminal has pretended to be a fellow young person. Or rarely, it can be from images that have been stolen, taken through hacking, or faked using AI generators or other image altering technology. And a criminal may demand money, gift cards, or Bitcoin, and they might try and force a young person to do something they don't want to, such as sharing more intimate images, videos, or providing access to their bank accounts. Just a caveat, it's not just young people who are at risk of this, and Police Scotland see people of all ages becoming victims. To help prevent sextortion, it's important to chat to young people about it to help build trust and give them the confidence to come to you for help if something happens online. Online sexual encounters with strangers are now considered to be socially acceptable, and it's often a common behaviour amongst the victim demographic. And typical signs of an extortion attempt can be the person is moving too fast, they try to quickly develop a relationship with you, they might be flirty, be quick to say they like you, or ask for sexual indecent images. They may even send you a sexual indecent image first. They can pressure you to do things you're not comfy with, such as sexual acts, and they might tell you they've hacked you or they might have access to your contacts. Some blackmailers might tell you they've got embarrassing images or information about you from your device, and they might threaten to share this information unless money is given to them. Fearless are the dedicated youth service for Crime Stoppers, and they recently launched a campaign on sextortion, and their website contains a wealth of information and resources on the subject. And here's a short video from Fearless Scotland manager Lindsay McDade.
Our advice would be don't panic. Don't pay or comply with whatever the criminal is wanting you to do, and get help. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's the middle of the night, the people that are around you that love you want to be woken up. They wouldn't want you to be alone dealing with this. But I think over and above those sort of fundamental key messages, I think it's really important to make clear to our young people that, you know, nothing is too embarrassing, nothing is too shameful or awkward or difficult. No matter what happens, you love them, you care for them, and you're absolutely in their corner.
Just to add to that, young people might be concerned that if they have sent an intimate image of themselves, they might have committed a crime. But that's not the case. They are a victim, and Police Scotland will treat their crime report seriously and in a confidential manner. We're here to support you and try and get justice. Online games such as Fortnite, Roblox, and EA Sports FC can be a great way for kids and young people to keep busy and stay in touch with friends and family. But it is important that they play safely. It does come with risks such as bullying, trolling, where players deliberately attack other players in a game, scams, and communication with strangers. Talking to your kid about what they're doing online is an important tool to help keep them safe. So some tips to help. Check whether the game is age appropriate and check the different features to check it's suitable for your child. Most games do have an age rating system provided by PEGI. Also, if you've got more than one kid at home, a game that might be appropriate for one kid might not be appropriate for a younger child. Also be wary of in-game purchases, as many games' business models now involve having to buy credits or items such as skins to keep playing. I'd suggest not storing payment card details on devices or in apps to prevent charges building up. Also be aware of live location sharing. Some games use GPS technology so players can reveal their current location to others. This has got obvious safety concerns, so explore location settings on your child's device and agree rules about when and where they can play. Also talk to your child about different communication features available on their favourite games. Make sure to explore where there are settings available to help limit contact with strangers. Digital platforms have made it easier for anyone to share information online, and it can often be difficult to determine whether something is real or false. False information that is spread online is known as misinformation or disinformation. This can expose children to issues such as online misogyny, propagated by influencers such as Andrew Tate. And it can lead to hoaxes such as fabricated or false news stories, viral messages, deep fakes, and memes. Online scams targeting young people are also rife, such as phishing emails sent to personal devices asking for personal information or containing blackmail demands. And they can often look as if they're from credible organizations or businesses. Promotions of products or false adverts that contain untrue claims. Catfishing, some have pretended to be someone else to trick them into doing something. Competitions or quizzes that lead you to believe there is a prize, and identity theft, people being tricked into sharing personal info, which is then used to hack other accounts. Online challenges involving sharing an image or video of yourself doing a set task is another risk. They can be fun, but some can become risky when they contain dangerous stunts or activities that can cause physical or psychological harm. To help combat this, it's important to remind young people that not everything they see online is real, and encourage them to always check before they share. And I'd say if you or your child comes across a hoax, scam, or risky online challenge, you should report it directly to the platform to try and get it removed. And if you or your child has been scammed online, then you should report it to the police. We always seem to get at least one question these days on artificial intelligence, and it's very much a hot topic in the media just now, so I'll touch on that briefly. AI is not new and has been used for at least 50 years, but it is the rise of generative AI that has made it a hot topic. And this is AI that can create content that could previously only be produced by humans. Young people are surrounded by AI wherever they go, with most toys, games, and internet platforms designed for kids, young people, depending on AI technology. But like any new technology, it also has dangers. It can spread hate, bias, and stereotypes. It can erode privacy, collecting huge amounts of data on us. And it can be used for bullying and fraud, can be used to create false or distorted images of a child or young person, such as fake nudes. And deep fakes and voice cloning can be used to threaten kids into giving private info or pay money. However, we can talk to young people about AI and the issues of privacy, bias, bullying, and general online safety. It's very important to manage young people's online privacy, and older kids are aware of how to manage this themselves. It can also help if you try out AI together to see how it works and point out to children any concerns that you have. But as with a lot of new innovations, it's important that we don't worry. AI could have a wide scope for useful applications and developments for social good in future. You don't have to be an IT expert to help keep children and young people safe online. One of the best things you can do to protect your child is to regularly talk to them about their use of technology, just as you do with other aspects of parenting. Having an open and honest approach is best. Reacting without involving them or talking to them can push behaviour underground, so it still happens, but you are less likely to know about it. And some conversations will be more difficult than others. For instance, you might be worried they have been viewing online pornography or perhaps been sharing nudes. But as with any conversation, it helps to stay calm, balanced, and non-judgmental. Don't tackle it if you're feeling emotional. And there's various good online resources out there to assist you, and I'll signpost some of those at the end of the presentation. And in conjunction with conversation, well-being controls and privacy settings can be used to manage screen time, block inappropriate content, prevent accidental spending, and keep strangers away. They can be useful, but as children grow older, they can cause resentment and can often be easily circumnavigated. So to help, you can manage your children's digital footprint, along with ensuring they have a strong and secure password and even having them implement two-step verification for that extra level of protection. These are all good measures to use to keep kids safe online. Digital footprint. Now that is a trail of data left behind when using the internet or digital devices. Most of us will have grown up with no digital footprint or a very limited digital footprint. But for the generation coming up now, it's a very real concern and could have long-lasting impacts on their future. So what develops a digital footprint? Emailing, social media, messenger, banking, dating, photo sharing, gaming, shopping, geolocation services, applications, all these activities add to your digital footprint. So why do we care? Well, once something is shared online, it is there forever, and information may not always be under your control. So don't make it easy for people to get information about you. A badly managed digital footprint can mean a digital you makes the real you vulnerable. So what can we do? Promote positive digital hygiene and help children understand how online activity creates a digital footprint that lasts forever. It's very difficult to keep things online private. Make sure kids think before they post and realize anything they post online could be viewed by thousands of people, including family, neighbors, friends. And again, make sure to utilize privacy settings online platforms provide. Encourage kids to be good digital citizens and treat people online how they would face-to-face. And maintain positive online behavior and social media profiles yourself. Set a positive example for your kids. And finally, it's a really good idea when a child stops using a website or social networking profile to delete it or deactivate it, just so the data's no longer online. So finally, I'd just like to highlight support that is out there. Police Scotland, if it's an emergency, you got the 999 number and a non-emergency 101 number. There's also a non-emergency contact form, which you can find on the Police Scotland website. Any issues or concerns, then please report to the police. The Police Scotland website also has a dedicated section on how to protect yourself against various forms of cybercrime. There's a lot of information, guides and advice for you there. There's also various helplines and services, phone numbers and online portals run by charities, government and not-for-profit organisations. And just to highlight some of those here. We've got CEP Education, they're part of the National Crime Agency, and they can help you prepare for conversations with children and young people around issues online. We've got the Parent Club, and there's tips and information there on how to protect your child from the dangers of the online world. Internetmatters.org, they've got kind of bespoke advice for various devices and apps and how you can set up privacy settings and the like there. We've got Get Safe Online, again, good information about keeping kids safe on various apps and games that they may be using. And finally, we've got Report Remove. If any intimate images are leaked online of a child or young person, they can use this service. It's confidential and hopefully they can get the images removed from the internet. Okay, that's enough for me droning on. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I'd now like to open up to any questions you may have for myself and the inspector. Thank you.
Thanks, Ewan and Alistair. Lots of information in there and really helpful sources of further information and support, and lots of food for thought about the different types of risk that children and young people can be exposed to. So if anybody has any specific questions and would like to drill down into any of those topics in particular, please put them in the Q&A and we'll pick them up. There was one question from Bridget that's come in. It was, can you recommend some good resources to share with young people aged 12 to 13 about cyber safety, so that are really written for young people in mind?
Yeah, that last slide there, I highlighted CEOP. They've got kind of a lot of age-specific guidance for various different age groups, so it's well worth having a look there from primary right the way up to kind of later secondary age.
Great. And so what does CEOP stand for?
CEOP Education. It's
Right, okay.
through the NCA.
It's Child Exploitation and Online Protection is what the acronym is. And when you send outside, we'll send some kind of further resources and with a wee summary of what they are. And people who are attending can kind of pick and choose what they think is appropriate or not to, if they're interested to.
Fantastic, thank you. I was also going to recommend Young Scot's Digiknow site, which has got lots of brilliant information on it as well. So I'll try and ask Aaron if she can dig out the link for that and put it in the chat too. That would be fab. Great, right, we've got lots of questions coming in, so let's see how many we can get through. So the second one is, how can we protect our kids from accessing inappropriate content through the school's iPads during school time? This is a big issue, and it's been in the news certainly recently about schools not having the security on their iPads that they would, I think, hope was there. Have you got anything that you can say about that?
Yeah, I'll take that one if you want, Ewan. So I was kind of loosely involved in an incident that took place a couple of months ago in Edinburgh. So it's down to each local authority is the short answer. The local authority decides on the safety settings. There's no one overarching safety setting. So without sounding past the buck, obviously there are safety settings on it, but when some schools allow devices to go home, the safety settings can then be altered. And then when the device goes back to school, the safety setting may not have been put back to what the setting should be. So it's not foolproof at all. But we are in discussions with Scottish Education and Scottish Government just about that and how we can ensure the safety, because that's ultimately what we're here for, to ensuring children and young people's safety. But without going into any specific incident that happened in Edinburgh or anywhere else, really challenging. It's down to each head teacher to decide ultimately what they fit in the curriculum, and then the non-curriculum activities, I suppose. Certainly we have campus officers throughout Scotland who we kind of upskill, and also the plan is moving forward. We'll link in with teachers as well and look to upskill them, because they're not necessarily know all the answers themselves. So we're trying to raise the awareness to everybody, as much as this is focused for the parents and carers, and if there's children here as well, brilliant. It should be collaborative. It's about ensuring everyone has that online awareness, because schools do have a responsibility if they're giving children access to the online world, possibly for the first time, to ensure that they can navigate that appropriately.
And yeah, there's a few questions about this, about the extent to which schools are talking to children about this, and the fact that younger children are using devices that actually it's not just high schools, is it? It needs to be, those conversations need to be started at a much earlier age.
Listen, absolutely, prevention can't start soon enough. We see, unfortunately, children as young as 7 being victims of extortion, for example, but likewise we have victims who are in their 80s. So it's not just children and young people, and hopefully that's the takeaway message. It's not children and young people that can fall victim to scam or need to stay safe online. This is for everybody, ultimately. And hopefully everybody will take something away from this and be able to implement it in their family life. But prevention can't start early enough. I think I saw a comment about children as young as 3 having absolutely. And listen, we're not here to lecture. I'm a father myself. We all sometimes give devices for a bit of quiet time to try and get our heads in order. That's understandable, and the peer pressure that can come with that, or for children either wanting devices or wanting certain apps on devices, it's all absolutely understandable. There's no easy answer to this, other than having that awareness of actually what could happen, and having, I suppose, those discussions, as you said, with your child about what they're doing. If I'm open and honest, not a Police Scotland spokesman right here, but I don't like the term parental settings. If I was a teenager, I would not want to be controlled. So we need to maybe change the language, and tech companies and mobile phone companies change the language. Maybe it's well-being settings or safety settings, because it should be collaborative, because we should be talking to our children and young people and seeing what they're doing, because it's just another part of their life. Unfortunately, we used to go outside and play football or whatever with the kids. Now, my son, for example, spends a lot of time playing Fortnite, for example, indoors, but speaking to all his friends. So it's just a generation shift in how we deal with things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's fun enough. There's been a question about parental controls. I'm really interested in the way that you framed it in terms of wellbeing controls. I think that's a much more positive way of talking about it. Do you have any guidance about the technicalities of that and how parents can navigate that with their children when they're all different on different platforms and do work in different ways?
That's the trouble. Every platform will have a different way of setting up the wellbeing controls and every game. So it's just a case of doing your research online, finding out how to set up the controls for that platform or device. And they will all have settings, just a case of individually finding out how to set them up.
So there's no easy answer to that one.
There's
Right?
not one catch-all setting, no.
Damn it.
No.
And that's a really good point, because I think digital literacy, for example, that is a real issue, because technology can be bamboozling, and it's fast evolving. As you said, an iPhone is different from an Android, and then you have different social media platforms, and everything is all different, and it's not necessarily as easy to navigate. Whether or not I still do or not, I don't know, but it's a real challenge in trying to find out, well, who can teach digital literacy. I think there's a gap in the market for that, to kind of show, almost do the step by step. Click here, go to settings. Click here for privacy settings or location settings, for example. So there's no real easy answer for that. It's unfortunately looking at what device you have or what app you're looking for, and they all have it, as you said. It's just searching for it.
Ironically, it would make a very good YouTube channel, that, wouldn't it, if there was little short videos on each different app. Maybe there is. Maybe we can find one on the back of this.
Internetmatters.org, they got a number of guides for different platforms and games, so it's worth having a look at.
Internet Matters, thanks. Could you
It was in one of the slides,
put that in
yeah.
the perfect, thank you. We've got a comment from about her daughter who is neurodiverse. Is there separate guidance on that? In recognition, as you said earlier, that neurodiverse children and young people can experience particular risks online.
No separate guidance, so just whatever you do for anybody will keep them safe online. So manage their digital footprint, make sure they got strong passwords, use two-step verification, speak to them about what they're doing online, and just make sure the well-being settings are set up just to keep them safe.
There is obviously we had a problem with putting signposts and links. Apologies for that, folks. I will share a link again that covers that. Internet Matters, as you just touched upon, very good website, and there is a link for neurodiverse children and young people as well for information.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think that I'm just having a look at the question from Wendy. I think is probably in the same areas about how to set up profiles, and obviously there's been you know, she's been talking to her 8-year-old about that, but is lacking a bit of confidence that things have been set up as she would like them to be. I guess it's just having that ongoing conversation, isn't it? And double checking, and
just have that conversation with your child and make sure they're aware that whatever they share online can potentially be out there forever. And if they don't want their granny to see it, don't put it online. And just like make sure the settings are as locked down as they can be for privacy as well, just to keep them safe.
great. And I suppose James is raising an interesting question, which is about the balance between keeping children safe and respecting their privacy as well, and that, you know, we don't want to push children so hard that they don't tell us things, and how you get that balance right is a tough one for all parents to navigate, especially as they get older and into teenage years. I don't know if you've got anything to say on that. Asking Police Scotland for some parenting advice here, I think.
I guess it's ongoing. As the kids get older, it's going to change, like how much freedom they have and how much access they get online. So a 17-year-old is going to be very different to a 5-year-old. And also, you don't want to drive behaviour underground either, like I was saying. So if you're totally too harsh with the child, too restrictive, then it might just happen anyway, but they don't tell you about it. So it's about keeping that communication channels open and having that discussions with them, so they're happy enough to approach you if they get any concerns or worries.
Yeah, and I think that point that you made it right at the start about risks have always been there for children, and they're just in different ways now, aren't they? And I guess it's just because it's changing so fast that we don't feel confident that we understand it enough to be able to have those conversations. But actually, the conversations in essence are the same. It's just the technology that's changed. But with that in mind, there has been questions that were received in advance about AI. I think that's a very high profile topic at the moment, and again, one that's changing fast. Is there anything particularly about AI that you're concerned about or that we should be aware of, and anything in particular that we could be doing to prepare ourselves for what's coming with AI?
Yeah, it's a big issue in the media just now, the rise of AI and how it might impact everybody in society, not just kids. I think the main thing you could do to protect yourself is just look after your digital footprint. The less information about you out there in the online world, the safer it's going to keep you, and the less AI can be used against you by criminals, But don't mean to scare people when we speak about AI. We're not seeing many calls coming in using it yet, but when it does come in, it's always a headline, quite a glamorous kind of headline for the newspapers and media. But the main issues are passwords being hacked and phishing emails, not AI at present, and that might change in the future. But just now, we're not seeing a lot of AI-related incidents that we know of.
And just to come in on that, I suppose as well, AI can be used for any number of things. We all use AI. It can be, if we're using Netflix, for example, and the algorithms that kick in there, it's the Alexa app, weather apps, we all use AI, but it's how it can be used. And I suppose some people have almost, you can't trust anything these days. And I don't think that's particularly helpful, if I'm being honest, because the world will grind to a halt if we don't trust anybody. We see kind of the deep fakes and the AI images and whatnot, and there's clues that if you look carefully at things, that the eyes is a big thing at the moment. That it's not quite right, and it always comes down to if it's too good to be true, something's not right there. Don't always believe it. Always take that minute, pause. Is this right? And scams have always been there, and it's now progressing onto the AI. We don't really know what the future store because it will potentially be easier, but as you said, we're not seeing that yet. But that might be the big crime type, unfortunately.
Thank you for that. And I suppose that raises the question: what are the main ones that you do see? What are the most common crimes or common areas of concern that do come your way?
So you jump in terms of children and young people, it's probably sextortion, if I'm honest. And sextortion, it can take shape in different ways. It can be in a domestic relationship setting under domestic abuse, where the perpetrator is known to the victim, for example. But more commonly, it is where the perpetrator direct messages the victim. They don't know each other, they have not met, and the profile picture will be an attractive-looking person of the opposite gender to the victim. And literally within minutes of that initial direct message, victims are sending intimate images. And that can lead to, unfortunately, tragic consequences with people taking their own life. So that's what we're trying to raise awareness of this. And I want to make it clear, the children and young people, they're not doing anything wrong. But by saying they're not, if Police Scotland can see that they're being threatened to send images or being exploited or blackmailed or whatever it is, or pressured into sending images, of course, they'll be seen as victims, absolutely. That's where the victim does not know that's probably the main type of extortion we're seeing, and unfortunately most perpetrators that we're seeing that are from overseas, and therefore it's harder to investigate and then prosecute those individuals as well. I would say fraud in general, if we're taking away age from this, fraud in general, I would say, is probably the most common one. I think we all get emails every day that are clearly phishing. Click here for the scams or reply or whatever it is. And it is a challenge, and but it comes down to human nature. Ultimately, you can have the best advice in the world, but sometimes the scams, unfortunately, are so good that because the email address might just be one letter missing, you don't notice that because you might be expecting an invoice, for example, from a company, and you click on the link, and then that's the perpetrator got access. So there's a real number of challenges, and I probably should have said at the beginning, part of my team's remit, I have two members of police staff that go out to speak to businesses and organisations, multi-medium enterprises, and offer that cybersecurity advice as well. But anyone ultimately can receive these type of emails, text messages. We're seeing them for either UK heating or the hi mum WhatsApp chat ones where hi mum, it's me, I've lost my phone type instances. So I'm absolutely not giving credit to the perpetrators here, but there's new ones almost every day, and it's just trying to raise awareness of how to combat them.
Are there any platforms that are particularly bad for sextortion, or you were talking about emails and text, so that's not necessarily particular?
So social media platforms,
Yeah.
we are absolutely, there's dating apps as well, but again, depending on the age, children and young people probably won't have the dating apps, so then look to social media apps, and it's the ones that Ewan alluded to that the children and young people use are the ones, because that's how children and young people interact with each other. So that's unfortunately how perpetrators can get in, and it goes back to the stranger danger message. If you don't, and I get it, it's so easy for some children to, it's about attention. I understand it's just so difficult, and they might then want to interact because the person might seem friendly. And unfortunately, that's what the perpetrators are looking for, and it's preying on human emotion and psychology, really.
We've had lots and lots in about schools, about worries about school tech not being as secure as it could be, about the extent to which schools are teaching this, about whether you work with schools and go into schools to talk about it, and how children and young people, I guess, are getting taught this themselves. So it's not just through their parents, and recognition that actually parents aren't always going to be the people that they want to talk about this to. Is there anything else on that area that you feel would be worth highlighting, or suggestions about how parents can have conversations with their schools?
It's just that. I mean, it's some messaging is probably not better delivered by the police, if I'm honest. It might be the partners and it might be the education, for example, that deliver those messages. I say we're in discussion with the government just about that, and how we can raise that awareness. But it comes down to the local authorities and timing as well, and getting it on the timetable. It's really important. Yeah, hopefully it's coming through loud and clear from my side that it should be taught. But head teachers are under their own pressures as well, and so I don't particularly want to answer for schools, but I suppose parent council speaking to the schools, because as I said, each local authority will do it differently. So what's done in East Ayrshire, for example, where I am, won't be done necessarily in Aberdeenshire, for example.
Yep. Well, that's good to know that those conversations are happening. And I think speaking to parent councils is a good suggestion about putting it on the agenda for parent council meetings, so that they can talk to schools about what they're doing and get an update. We've had a very specific question about Snapchat, which I don't know whether you're able to answer. In terms of Snapchat and digital footprints, is that something, because obviously messages and posts on Snapchat disappears, is there still a digital footprint there? Do you know, it's quite a technical question.
Unfortunately, people can be quite ingenious and they can take a screenshot of what you maybe put up on Snapchat, and then you've lost control of it. It can be shared anywhere. So I would say the same advice. Don't share it on Snapchat with thinking it's going to only be there for 6 seconds. It could potentially be online forever and anyone could see it. So just be very wary with that.
Good advice, thank you. I'm trying to see if there's anything from the questions that I have missed. Apologies if I haven't got to your question. Again, worries about what's happening in schools. Age restrictions on smartphones. We've talked a bit about that. The recording will be shared, so if people haven't got all of the information or want to sort of listen to it again, we will be doing that. Is there anything else? Let's have a look. Well, maybe if we could just sort of, we're starting to get towards the end of our session, wrap up with some general bits of advice. So I don't know if this is an easy question or a difficult question, but if you had 3 tips that you were to give to parents that are watching this about things that they could do after they've finished this session, apart from having their dinner or going off to doing whatever else it is they've got on this evening, what would it be?
I think communication is key. Speak about what they've maybe learned from this session, and don't scare the kids, but make them aware of what dangers are out there and how they can keep themselves safe online. And maybe sit down with them, watch what they're doing online, what games they're playing, what digital social media they are using. And that's key. And then if they do have any concerns or worries, they'll hopefully come to you and make you aware before it gets too out of hand or escalates. Also, I would say passwords are quite an important thing to have. Just make sure the password's strong and are aware not to share it with anyone else. And yeah,
that
just
doesn't feel like, that feels like quite a nice, safe, easy thing to talk about, doesn't it? That's not.
it does an easy starter, yeah. And just be aware of what they are sharing. And yeah, as I said a few times already, it can be there for forever. So are they happy for anyone to see what they're putting out there?
Great. Alistair, do you have 3?
The communicate, I wouldn't say 3. It's just have that channel of communication. Speak to your child, and it can be difficult, and teenagers especially. I think we all feel that pain sometimes. But it's about keeping them safe. At the end of the day, I really do believe it should be a collaborative effort. It shouldn't be about parental control. And I see a comment by Hilda there about the rights of the children. Absolutely, and probably going back to the previous question about is there any apps you can monitor? It's got to be that collaboration, because you don't want to lose the trust. As much as parents are always wanting to know what their children are up to, just for peace of mind and wanting to keep them safe, there's got to have that communication, speak to them, and it can be challenging. I'm not pretending it's easy. It's not, but hopefully some of the resources that we provide afterwards, that there's some great tips for how to speak to children, or how to look at the various different apps and look at the settings, and things like that. So hopefully things will be helpful. And ultimately, listen, as I've said before, more than happy to come on in another 6 months, a year's time, and do another presentation, and answer more questions.
Great. Well, thank you for that offer. I'm sure we'll take it up. And I suppose if hopefully all of this is put in place and we're all going to be having lots of really good conversations with our children and young people after this, and prevent them getting into difficult situations. But if they do end up getting into a situation where they have exposed themselves to risk and are coming to harm, the message you've said is about contacting the police and feeling, that's an appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, let us. Sorry.
Oh no, wait, on you go.
Yeah, let us know. We're here to help. If you've been a victim of crime, then we're here to give you advice and guidance and hopefully get justice. justice for you. So yeah, please do get in touch and make us aware of what's going on.
Great.
And again, that's what it's all about. Some people don't feel comfortable going to the police, but say for some crimes, it's extortion, for example, there's report and remove tools out there to try and get the images down. So there's other ways to go about it. But listen, it goes back to we shouldn't be blaming people for what they're doing. As it goes back to, we'll push boundaries, we'll take risks, but the days of blame are gone. It's about tell us. Every inquiry will be looked at and investigated professionally. There should be no blame, no shame in whatever is being reported.
Great. Well, that's a really positive and helpful message. So I will thank you both for your contributions this evening. Before we lose everybody, Aaron's going to put a little survey link in the chat for a little bit of feedback from yourselves. It's really helpful to understand whether you found this helpful, what we could have done better, what's most important to you, so that we can use this for planning going forward. But on behalf of Parenting Across Scotland, a big thank you to Alistair and Ewan for your time and your advice and your guidance. I hope everybody found it reassuring. I think sometimes just actually going back to the basics, and it's just been about simple thing about communication relationships, is just really helpful, because we can get caught up in all the technicalities on big issues like this. So I think if anything, that's what I'm going to take from it. And thank you for coming along, for your questions and contributions. And we will hope to see you at another Parenting Across Scotland event at some point in the future. So have a good evening, everybody.